What is the Kramatorsk direction today? What does it look like? Well, because first of all, you see that train routes to Kramatorsk are already being cancelled, and it's becoming a city that's constantly under shelling. The military say that in Donetsk region, there is no longer any place where you can be safe. Drones reach everywhere. What is the Kramatorsk direction and what is happening there?
Well, overall, in the Kramatorsk direction, the situation is very dynamic. Just as you mentioned about the railway stations, we all perfectly understand that from these railway stations, our servicemen who are in Donetsk region could easily go on leave, and their relatives and loved ones could come to visit them. And this has somewhat affected our rear structure, roughly speaking, when there are no longer any trains from the city of Kramatorsk. It's a bit tough for people. Overall, the direction is difficult, but as all Russian forces advance, we try to destroy them, and we're doing it very successfully. Yes, every city, Zhushkivka, Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, is under fire from FPV drones because they have really developed this direction well. We know that it's happening at the state level for them. There are also constant attacks from cabs as well. Well, that's something they have going on steadily. It's working well for them.
On local Kramatorsk resources, since I communicate with residents who used to live and were born there, information is spreading that supposedly the armed forces of Ukraine have been ordered to leave Kramatorsk due to the threat of encirclement. However, later on, it was emphasized on social media that this is fake and false information. Tell us about the military operational situation and what civilians who are still there need to know.
Well, in general, regarding the encirclement, that's just a fake, just rumors. Well, we understand their main objective. They want to take Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, and by doing so, show that they have captured the entire Donetsk region. But right now, there isn't even the slightest thought of that happening. All the forces they throw into their infantry assaults, mechanized assaults, whenever heavy equipment moves in, it's all destroyed even before they manage to reach or even get close to the current line of contact. It all burns, it all goes up in flames, and they have absolutely no success in these directions.
How effective is the protection against Russian drones in the form of stretching nets over roads near Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, and other cities and settlements? We've seen a lot of such photos. We've seen reports that even French fishermen, for example, are now sending their old nets to Ukraine to help cover the roads. Is this an effective defense? How does it work?
Well, in general, yes, we can see that preparations have already started to go well to block the main routes of logistical supply from those same FPV drones that are flying in these directions. And overall, it has proven to be effective. We understand that it can at least provide some minimal protection against FPV drones. Yes, for example, an Orlan drone can fly wherever it wants and destroy things, and this won't be an obstacle for it, but at least against FPV drones, it offers some protection, and people can move around more safely, knowing that at least on a minimal level, they're covered.
I'd also like to talk a bit about your personal story. When was the last time you had a chance to rest? How long have you been stationed in the Kramatorsk direction, and when was the last time you were home? Where are you from?
Well, I'm generally from Vinnytsia region, the city of Kalinivka. I just got back from vacation. Before that, I went a whole year without a vacation, and now I've just come back from one. I spent time with my family, had a good rest, recharged, and gained new strength and energy to keep destroying the enemy with maximum effort. I also came back with fresh ideas on how to develop our unit and advance our direction in unmanned systems, because this is one of the key components of the future, and we understand that the future is ours. And we want peaceful skies for all of Ukraine, and for the enemy to perish and simply never set foot on our land.
And regarding, as you mentioned, the development of the Unmanned Systems Unit, how actively do you use ground robotic complexes, which have already become very popular in various units? But we've already talked about drones, about interceptor drones. Do our border guards use ground complexes?
Yes, of course. In our unit, this area has been developed over the past 2 months. We are developing it in every possible way. Currently, at our airstrips where our pilots carry out their duties, they support logistical missions, delivering provisions, any materials, water, and fuel and lubricants. And this is very effective as it sustains both our servicemen and the vehicles they use. Then it is very effective. We really like it. And you'll hear more about us as we develop it further and use ground-based robotic systems to destroy the occupiers. At the moment, it's still just logistical missions.
And we'll definitely be waiting to hear positive news about this on air. And you said you went on leave, met with your wife. Hey, do you have kids, Mom? You can send your greetings live on air right now. Because as soon as we started talking about your personal story, about how you were able to see and hug your loved ones, your expression changed.
The most important thing is that everyone is alive and healthy. Everyone already understands who comes on air and when. The most important thing is health for everyone and patience for all of Ukraine, and not to forget that we, the military, are defending our motherland, and to try to donate to us, to all the defense forces who are now going through tough times. But we are holding on. Thank you all.
But how many more such tragedies could there be? Why is the clear ban on these risky award ceremonies from the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine not working? Where is the system failing? And how can we put an end to such disregard for the lives of our defenders? I asked General Alexander Syrski about this in a brief phone conversation before the broadcast. He expressed that, out of empathy for the families, he told them about a serious internal investigation that is ongoing in parallel with the SBI case. The problem is not only that the ban on ceremonies at the front was violated, the Commander-in-Chief said. Once again, there was a group chat on social media, and this is a disregard for basic safety rules. Because it was by hacking the networks that the Russians most likely found out about the gathering, Syrski believes. In recent days, this tragedy was discussed with the Corps commanders, and the Commander-in-Chief hopes that disciplinary measures will reduce such incidents to zero, the chances of exposing ourselves to the enemy again. Of course, I also asked about Pokrovsk. Has the Russian offensive really slowed down temporarily? How does the Commander-in-Chief himself assess the situation there? And since it makes no sense to discuss the entire strategy of whether to retreat or not, or to surrender territory to the enemy live on air, I phrased the question this way. Does our command have a plan B, or maybe even a plan C to save the situation? Pokrovsk is a continuous fortified area, said the Commander-in-Chief. Yes, there are a few places where the Russians managed to get through the engineering barriers, but the command knows exactly where those spots are. And that's why the situation is under control, says Syrski. Of course, there is both a plan B and a plan C for all possible developments, I quote the Commander-in-Chief. But the intensity of enemy attacks has really decreased, he says. That doesn't mean they want to capture Pokrovsk any less. Right now, the Russians have gathered 50,000 bayonets there, but they know that since October, they've lost a similar number, about 30,000 Muscovites. Moreover, the 425th Assault Regiment has been deployed to Pokrovsk, which, according to Syrski, is operating very effectively. Syrski himself, who is also almost constantly near Pokrovsk, assesses the situation 3 times a day. According to him, the logistical routes have been restored and reoriented, with the weather lending a hand. And at present, there are all the forces and means necessary to confidently say that there is no reason for panic, the Commander-in-Chief emphasized. Well, in this situation, we can help too, so let's keep donating. Let the gratitude of our heroes motivate you. We have a report on what has been accomplished from the 159th Brigade, and our soldiers already have the much-needed transport. Thank you to the viewers of TSN Week.
The servicemen of the 159th Mechanized Brigade expressed their sincere gratitude to the viewers of TSN Week and to Aliyah Mazur. Thanks to them, it became possible to purchase 2 ATVs, which are extremely important for the logistical support of electronic warfare operations. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.